Hi, I'm David Hall, and welcome to Fairview Range Focus. I am really excited today to share our program with you. I think we've got a great show for you today. I'm excited about it. And so let me introduce my guests today. First of all, we have Karen Hardy on my left, who's the Director of Surgical Services, and Caitlin Wilson, who is the Hospital Liaison for LifeSource. Welcome. And to my right is Kelly Lawson, who is the Director of Surgical Services, but she has Emergency services, excuse me. I'm glad you corrected that. So emergency services, and you have a special guest of your own with you today, your son Dominic. And I know you have a special personal story to share with us about organ donation, so we're going to look forward to talking with Dominic a little bit later in the program. So, but we're going to talk about organ donation and tissue donation a little bit, and then we'll come back to that. So thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us.
So April is National Donate Life Month. So Karen, can you tell us a little bit, what exactly is that?
Well, Donate Life is that time when you make a decision to become an organ, tissue, or eye donor. You can do such a thing by going down to the DMV and registering there, and or going online and registering to become a donor. And what happens with that is that would legally bind, well, I shouldn't say bind you, but that is your legal form of saying that you are a donor, and which is a great thing. And I think that another thing to think about too is you also need to share that with your loved ones, as well as maybe letting them know what a gift it is to become a donor.
Yep. And National Donate Life Month is really, it's a month-long recognition of those who have given the gifts of life, and all of those who have been connected through donation to others by sharing. And I'm very excited to hear Kelly's story because she really illustrates just how amazing donation is.
Okay. All right, great. So this is a special month from an organ donation standpoint, but also as we recognize this is an annual event, is that right?
That's correct.
Yes.
Okay. And so good time to do our show for this month, talking about organ donation. So just how many people are affected by donations, or how many lives are affected? Can you talk about that?
Absolutely. So right now in the United States, there's over 121 men, women, and children who are waiting for the life-saving gift of an organ donation. 22 people actually die on that waiting list every day, and a new name is added every 10 minutes. So it's something that affects a large number of people, and we certainly, as a society, want to ensure that we are saving more lives through organ donation. So that's really how many people are affected. A single donor can enhance or improve the lives of up to 60 individuals through organ, tissue, and eye donation.
How many?
60.
60.
60.
Wow.
It's amazing.
So it's not just one person giving an organ affecting another person, it's 60 people potentially.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So through organ donation, a single donor can save the lives of up to 8 individuals through the donation of heart, lungs, liver, kidneys, pancreas, and intestine. A tissue donor can enhance the lives of up to about 60 people, and sometimes it's even more, through the donation of bones, connective tissues, eye donation, skin grafts, things like that.
Okay. So we mentioned LifeSource. Can you tell me just real briefly what is LifeSource? You're a liaison for LifeSource.
Yeah.
Who is LifeSource?
So LifeSource is the federally designated organ procurement organization, or the OPO, for Minnesota, North Dakota, and South Dakota. And we have the privilege of working with donor families to facilitate donation in our community. We have about 8 transplant centers that we work with, including Mayo Clinic in Rochester, and 278 or 279 hospital partners, including Fairview Range, because donation actually happens in the hospital.
Right.
So LifeSource works under the umbrella of Donate Life, and we are the organization that facilitates donation for our region.
Okay, great, thank you. So Kelly, I understand there's 2 kinds of organ donors. Can you tell me about that? Tell me what that is.
So there's 2 types of organ donation, or of donation itself. So we have the living organ donors, and of course that's going to be your kidney donors as well as the partial liver donors. It also includes blood donation, so if you're giving bone marrow, that entails the living donors. And then we have the non-living donors, and Caitlin kind of hit on that, where you can donate your family or your loved ones heart, kidney, lungs, so it has a significant impact after life. So there's the 2. We have the living for liver and kidney, and then the non-living for more organ and tissue. And then I just wanted to note too, I've been doing some research as I'm in school, and out of the 121,000 people that are waiting for an organ donor, 101,000 of them are waiting for a kidney.
Yep.
So kidney is the #1 organ that is needed to save lives.
Okay, interesting. Great, thank you for sharing that. So we talked about organ and we talked about tissue. Caitlin, can you help us understand that? So what's the difference?
Yeah, absolutely. So in organ donation, obviously we're talking about saving lives through the donation of organs. They can be living donors or donors after death. LifeSource is the organization that works with donation after death. Transplant centers work more with the living donors. So tissue donation differs a little bit from organ in just the circumstances of the individual passing. And certain people can be tissue donors. Less people actually can be organ donors than tissue. We recover tissue on about 500 very generous people every year in our region. So it's pretty amazing, but these are obviously non-living donors.
Okay. So is it okay to ask what kind of tissue are we talking about?
Yeah, so bones, connective tissue,
Okay.
skin, vasculature,
Okay.
bone marrow is another one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Pretty
Okay.
cool.
And what about eye donation?
A single eye donor can improve the vision in up to 10 people, actually. It's pretty amazing. We do corneal only recoveries as well as whole globe, and there's different surgeries that require the use of those different tissues. But corneal transplants happen about 1 million people actually each year receive a corneal transplant to restore sight every year.
Okay.
Pretty cool.
Okay. Very good. And how about bone marrow? That's someone can donate that as well.
Yes, so there are what we call blood cancers or other conditions that can help people that are suffering from certain types of autoimmune diseases. So what they will have is a bone marrow transplant, and what that requires from a living donor is being a match. But in order to find out if you're a match, it's a very simple test. All you have to do is grab the Q-tip and you swab the inside of your cheek, and they send it off for DNA testing, and then you're put into the National Registry. So testing is very easy, and then if you are selected that you are the one that could potentially save somebody's life, you know, their only chance at life, if you are selected, then the physician would decide what type of donation you're going to do, and there's 2 types. It's either through a peripheral blood, so it's just like donating blood, and they're going to extract the stem cells out of the blood, or they could have you go into like a surgical suite where they would go into the bone marrow and like the hip and do more of the extraction through that type of a procedure. It takes a day, it's very simple, and you've just impacted somebody's life significantly.
Wow. So what kind of recovery is there from something after for the donor? Is it a long recovery afterwards? Or?
I think for the peripheral blood donation part, it's probably about a day or 2 where you might just feel a little tired.
Okay.
So just taking it easy, and then if they go into the actual bone marrow to extract, it's probably like a 2 or 3 day where you just need to take it easy. But after a week, you feel back to normal and you can resume activities, and knowing that you've just potentially saved somebody's life.
Wow. Okay. Good. I know when I've given blood, they often ask about, you know, are you sick? Have you had a cold? Have you had flu? And things like that. Karen, is that something that is an issue as well for organ donations or tissue donations?
Well, I think it is. I think that we could better address that.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. So is being sick, is that an issue? I mean, as far as someone has to be well, they can't have any diseases or anything?
To be a
an
donor.
organ donor?
Absolutely. So it's a significant amount of testing. You have EKGs, you have labs. I mean, it's probably about a 2-week-long process of making sure that you're the perfect person and that your health is always #1. We're never going to jeopardize anybody else's health to save somebody else. So,
Okay.
you know, you need to be under a certain weight, and you have all the testing done. And yeah.
Okay. From a religious standpoint, is there any religions that object to organ donations that you know of?
All major religions accept organ donation and support it and identify that it is a significant gift of life.
Okay. How about the cost? It sounds like, I mean, for someone to make a donation, there's a cost. I mean, there's a team and people involved with that. Can you speak to that?
As far as cost,
There's no cost to the
no
family.
cost to the family at all.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So who pays that?
That's a really good question. So organ procurement organizations such as LifeSource, we incur those costs.
Okay.
How they get paid on the other side is through transplant centers. And so it's part of insurance and things like that. But to the donor families, there's absolutely no cost in terms of anything related to the donation.
Okay.
Mhm.
Good to know, because I think that it's always a factor. I mean,
Yeah.
healthcare's expensive, and you talk about organ donation and
Yeah.
a surgical removal or something, so that's good to know.
Yeah.
What about from a family standpoint? Can you describe for us a little bit about what the family might expect if there's an opportunity for an organ donation?
Absolutely. So if you are in the unfortunate circumstance where you're a family member and your loved one is at end of life in the hospital situation, if they are deemed eligible for donation, you will be approached by LifeSource staff. And they'll talk a little bit about the benefits of donation. If your loved one happens to be donor designated, which Karen talked about earlier, is when you check the box at the DMV or you go online to one of our online registers and register there, we will talk to you about how we're going to facilitate your loved one's wishes and what the donation process looks like and what you can expect from there. You'll always be treated with great respect. Donor families are at the heart of our work, and you'll have indefinite access to all of our aftercare programs as well.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone has end of life and they've given an organ, it can't help to think about the funeral standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
And does it affect a funeral at all in any way, as far as like viewing the loved one or anything?
So we work with families all the time, and one of the very first questions that we talk about is what are your loved one's wishes in terms of a funeral and a viewing, and we ensure that we can accommodate that. It's an incredible procedure in terms of the actual surgery, and we use a lot of prosthetics and things like that to ensure that your loved one will look how they would have looked had they not been a donor.
Okay, good. So I remember we had an event at the hospital not too long ago, and where we had a table set up, and I had the swab, so I'm registered, I think. But when does that happen? How does that happen? If somebody is watching today and they hear this and they say, you know, that's important to me, I'd like to do that. How do they do that?
Absolutely. So what you're talking about is the bone marrow registry.
Okay.
And so that is through Be The Match, and BeTheMatch.org is an incredible resource for anybody that would be interested in this. And you can actually go online and register to receive a swab kit sent directly to your home, and they will. There's instructions, and you'll swab your cheek is what it is, and then you'll send it back, and they'll do all the DNA testing, which is what has been done with you.
Okay.
And what they ask you is that you always keep your information up to date. And so if you are one of the incredibly, I think, fortunate people that would be able to save someone's life through bone marrow donation, they will contact you and they'll talk you through that process and go from there.
Okay. And how about organ donation? Then is it just through the driver's license primarily? Or?
There's online registries as well, DonateLifeMN.org and DonateLifeUSA.org, DonateLifeWisconsin.org. You can certainly register at any of those online registries. And you can do it at the DMV as well. It's a national registry, however, so if you're on one, you're on the other.
So, Karen, from the standpoint of the family being aware, you mentioned earlier that was an important thing. Why, can you help us understand that? Why is it important for my family to know that I want to be an organ donor?
I think it makes a difference, especially if you get close to that time in your life where you could be that possible or potential donor, that it makes it easier for them to know that that is your wish and it supports that. I also would like to believe it's an encouragement for your family members to consider to become a donor as well.
Right. Okay. So, Fairview Range is very much involved working with LifeSource, and maybe Karen or Kelly, you could speak to that from the standpoint of what does Fairview Range do from an organ and tissue donation standpoint to support that?
Right now we're having an annual Donate Life Day. So the first one was last year in April, and we're celebrating again on Thursday, April 28th. We're going to have a flag raising ceremony. It's at 1 o'clock at the north entrance near the emergency department.
Okay.
Dominic here is going to be part of it. He's going to help raise the flag.
Okay.
And what it does is we just come together, we celebrate the gift of donation, we identify those that have given the gift of life, and then we also have resources available, as Caitlin was mentioning. So we're going to have the availability for people to swab their cheek, to go online and register to be an organ donor, and there'll be also information about becoming a living organ donor. So as I had mentioned, that would involve a kidney or a partial liver.
Okay, great. And tell me that date again, so everybody can hear that.
So it's April 28th,
28th.
Yes,
Okay.
so that's a Thursday, and it's at 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Okay. And is it going to be out in the north entrance?
Yes.
By the emergency department there?
Correct.
Okay. Great. Well, that'll be a great opportunity
Yep.
for people to come and help celebrate, but as well as to really consider becoming registered to be a donor.
And I've been told that we have invited over 100 donor families.
Oh, wow.
So just
Great.
recognizing the gift that their loved one has provided others.
Okay,
It's
good.
actually over 400.
400
Oh, wow.
now?
Yeah, there's going to be 400
Good.
donor families that have been invited. We hope we have a good
Wow.
showing of them
Yeah.
because they're really, again, the heart of what we do in terms of donation after death, and they're really the ones that have said yes and honored their loved ones' wishes.
And I'm assuming most of those people are all from around here, or northern Minnesota.
Yes.
So a lot of lives in our area. This isn't just something that happens elsewhere in a metro area, large metropolitan area or something, right here on the range.
Absolutely. Or, you know, they wouldn't have necessarily had to have been a donor, or their loved one wouldn't have been a donor necessarily at Fairview Range, but that they live here and have made those decisions and possibly have had their loved one be a donor at other facilities. But we do want to give them an opportunity to come and be recognized for such
Great.
a tremendous gift.
Great. So I look forward to it. It'll look like a great
Yeah.
event again. But I want to talk about this young man over here, Dominic, who's got a great smile. And Kelly, I know that you have a very personal story and, with Dominic, and we're grateful for both of you being here today. But we'd love to hear the story. Could you tell us about your organ donation story?
Yes. So Dominic is 10 years old. He was born 3 months premature.
Okay.
So the first 3 months of his life was spent in the neonatal intensive care unit at the University of Minnesota. His early arrival was because he had 80% kidney failure before he was even born. So before he was born, we knew that there were going to be some concerns regarding his kidney function. But he survived the first 3 months and came home knowing that by the time he was about 2 years old, or 20 pounds, he needed to have a kidney transplant
Okay.
in order to be healthy and have a good quality of life. So we nursed him as much as we could, and we got him to 20 pounds, and I was identified as his donor match. So I went in and donated my kidney to him, and that's very special because I always say I got to give my son life twice.
Yeah, yeah.
So he was 2 years old at the time. Did very well. We got home about a week later. He started to have a fever, and just an unfortunate series of events took place, and he went into acute rejection, which is very uncommon. It only happens in about 1% of the population, but it was the case for Dominic. So the kidney that I had donated just about 6 weeks prior had lost its blood supply and ultimately died inside, so they had to take it out. So he was living without any kidneys at that time then, and was put on the national organ donation list.
And he
So
was
that-
how old again?
He was 2.
2 years old?
Yes. And a lot of people were really, I guess, questioning how can an adult give their kidney to a child?
Yeah,
He's
good.
so little.
Yeah.
But it is possible. It doesn't go into the retroperitoneal area in the body. It goes right into their belly, and it's the full kidney. So adults are a great donor for children.
Wow.
So with that being said, he had to go on to hemodialysis as he was on the waiting list. We were searching for another donor match. He was undergoing hemodialysis 5 days a week. Each dialysis run was 5 hours a time. So ultimately he was on life support, waiting for somebody to save his life. We were searching the media and just different avenues to try to find a donor match as we waited. And about 6 months into it, he and I just moved into the Ronald McDonald House next to the University of Minnesota. About a month later, my husband moved down there because it was getting to be a longer wait than we had first anticipated. So about a year into it, a young lady came forward. Her brother had just been at the University of Minnesota, and he had underwent a bone marrow transplant. And his bone marrow transplant was successful, but he had a secondary infection and died, and he was 11 years old.
Oh, wow.
So in honor of her brother, she wanted to save Dominic's life. And that was a big, commitment on her part because she had just been through so much. So I told her to take some time and really think about it. And she just had this, undeniable desire to save Dominic's life. And so she came back to Minnesota and was tested, and she was a perfect match for him.
Wow.
So she was tested. I talked about all the testing that took place, And she flew back then, and on May 21st of 2008, she donated her kidney to save Dominic.
And her name is Mary? Is that right? Mary is from California.
Yep. And she's a critical care nurse now, and we're
Wow.
still in contact with
Was she
her.
a nurse at that time?
She was not. She was going to school to be a nurse. But this kind of swayed her to proceed her aspirations to become a nurse.
Wow.
So she has made a significant difference in our life. Dominic is doing very well. He is now, 10 years old. He's in 4th grade. He likes to play sports. He's able to enjoy, what's your favorite sport?
Baseball.
Baseball. So with spring coming, he's very excited to get out his baseball glove and start throwing the ball around.
Mhm.
He likes to hit home runs. He also skates, so plays hockey, and pretty much has a very normal life. And that's all been made possible through the gift of organ donation.
Wow. That's an amazing story. Very, very powerful to understand the real meaning of organ donation. So I'm so grateful for sharing that. Dominic, you said you like to play baseball?
Yes.
Is that right? That's your favorite sport? And so you're going to be playing that real soon, I bet. Yeah? That's awesome.
Tell them what team you're going to be on. They can cheer you on.
Taconite.
Taconite.
Do you remember anything about that? You were pretty little when all this happened, aren't you? Yeah. I bet Mom remembers it pretty well. Mhm.
He sees lots of pictures, and always says, oh, that was me, and yes, it was.
Yeah.
We were along for this journey. We were put in it for a reason, and because of Dominic's story, I've been told by the University of Minnesota that many other people have received the gift of organ donation because of the awareness that he's brought forward.
So do you still have contact with Mary?
Oh, yes.
So
Yes. I mean, the distance makes it a little bit different, difficult, but with, telephone and Skyping and Facebook, we stay connected.
I bet you she's really interested to watching the life and career of Dominic. That's pretty
Sure.
special. So do you get to talk to Mary too, Dominic?
Kinda.
Kind of, yeah.
Right after the donation, we were visiting each other about every 6 months. So we went out to California several times, and
Oh,
she
you
came
did?
to Minnesota and
Okay.
spent a lot of time together.
Yeah.
But as life has gotten a little bit busier in school and stuff, it's made it a little more difficult, but we stayed connected with her family.
Well, it's just kind of ironic in the sense of, realizing she became a critical care nurse and really developed a real clinical understanding clearly of what occurred and what she did, and
Yes.
no doubt the impact. Wow.
And then just through her brother's journey with a bone marrow transplant, Mary and her family are huge advocates through Donate Life through California, and speak at many functions throughout the whole state. And so her mother Gina goes to schools and talks about the impact of organ and tissue as well as bone marrow donation.
And I'm guessing this isn't the first time you've told your story either.
No.
Well, it's a really powerful story, and to be able to really understand the impact that organ donation can make on a life, a precious life, is pretty powerful and very meaningful. And again, I think for us to be able to understand and recognize of the need being right here locally, that it's a real thing, and that we can make a difference even from where we're at. So being a registered donor, you could impact someone's life hundreds of miles away,
Absolutely.
right? So all the more reason to I think really for people to consider the opportunity. So
And we just had another one of our, what we call a transplant friends. He had his 3rd kidney transplant last week, and he was on the donor list, so he had a non-living donor, and he's doing very well, and so he's going to be discharged today. So for Organ Donor Awareness Month, we recognize our friend who just had his kidney transplant.
neat. Thank you. Thanks for sharing the story. It was really neat to hear about that. Thanks, Dominic. It was great to meet you, and we'll be anxious to watch your baseball career, and hope that you do well in this spring and summer. So thank you to everybody. It's really fun to talk about organ donation. And again, this is a special month to recognize organ and tissue donation. And the date again for a special event is the 28th.
At 1 o'clock.
April 28th at 1 o'clock at Fairview Range Medical Center here in Hibbing. So
Yes.
we'll hope that our friends in the public will consider attending with us and being part of that. So thank you to Karen and Caitlin and Kelly and Dominic. It was great to have you here. We appreciate your time and telling your stories and helping us better understand and appreciate what organ donation is and the impact it can have. So thanks for watching. I hope you'll watch next month for another Fairview Range Focus. And I hope you'll consider organ donation as well. Thanks for watching.
Hibbing Public Access Television would like to thank U.S. Bank for providing us with studio space.